Thank you everyone for joining us for how we streamlined our technical evaluation process and got our CEO's attention with Scott Reeder. My name is David Peck, and I am a customer success manager here at Consensus, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. DemoFest is presented by Consensus. Consensus is leading the world into the new era of demo automation. Our platform gets your buyers what they need when they need it, and it then multiplies your revenue team's impact with unique insights on those buyers as a result. You'll see faster close times, larger deals, and higher close rates. You can learn more at goconsensus.com or view the automated micro demo at the link in the Docs tab at the right of your screen. We encourage you to participate in today's session. On the right of your screen on your console, you'll see a few ways to engage with us throughout the session. The chat function will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees, and we encourage you to do that. Throughout the session, you may see a few polls. We encourage you to participate as your feedback is very important to us. Our speaker will be taking questions from the audience at the end of the session, so please ask any questions that you have. We encourage you during the session as well to ask questions at any time at the Q&A box. If at any time you're having any sort of technical difficulties, head to the gear at the bottom of your screen. And then there you'll be able to go in and there's a help document there, and it's going to help you troubleshoot any sort of common issues that you would have while you're into the session. And with that, I'd like to turn the time over to our amazing speaker and director of sales engineering at ReliaQuest, Scott Reeder. Scott, can you hear us?
I can, loud and clear.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, turning the time right over to you, Scott, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. There we go.
All right, David, appreciate it. Well, appreciate everybody taking some time to join today. Really excited about the opportunity to speak here. Just before I go ahead and jump into this, a little background about myself. So currently I'm the director of sales engineering here at ReliaQuest. We sell a security operations center platform that's delivered via a SaaS model. I've been in the tech industry for, 3+ decades now. Out of that time in the tech industry, I've been in sales and sales engineering for majority of it. I've been leading and managing and mentoring teams for 15+ years, everywhere from large security companies, technology companies, all the way down to some really small startup SaaS companies. So a broad range of experience here in tech, and excited today to talk a little bit about how we've streamlined our evaluation process since I came in and joined ReliaQuest here, and how we're delivering that and value to our prospects and customers. So jumping forward here, and apologize on the slides. Give me just a second. Jumping forward here to the agenda for today, I broke this conversation down into two different sections. One, and I think this is an important piece to the conversation today, it's around building the SE foundation. I find that anytime you're going to start to deliver proof of concepts or proof of values out to prospects and customers, that you really need to have a strong SE foundation in org. If you attempt to go right into delivering POVs and POCs, and you don't have that strong foundation, it creates a lot of challenges for organizations to try to scale and deliver optimal efficiency to their prospects, and then ultimately deliver value back to the company. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about building out the SE foundation, creating your team, organizing that team for efficiency, managing the team with different tools, and then understanding where your team is spending their time and where they're most effective at from a time perspective. Once we cover that, then we'll jump into streamlining the technical process. We'll talk a little bit about the differences between a POC and a POV and why I think it's important to define those. We'll spend some time about talking about building the process and what resources you can utilize, or what resources we utilize here at ReliaQuest. Then we'll jump in to talk about some tools that we've used and some tools that I've built and had success with over time. And then ultimately we'll end with reporting that information back to the business and how we delivered value at the CEO level and down here at ReliaQuest. So moving forward, I think one of the most basic fundamental pieces that you have to get right to deliver, value back to prospects through proof of concepts and proof of values is to hire the right sales engineering team. And I would say that the majority of you that are on this session today understand that well. It's really important to hire a good team. But one of the reasons I call this out, I think anytime that you're scaling into a POC, POV environment, it's really important to have really good hiring plans documented. As you continue to scale your business, have things documented on how you screen, how hiring managers conduct themselves, what team interviews look like, how you make your screening decisions, how you make your hiring decisions, if you're doing team interviews or skills presentations, what they look like and how that's documented, and then ultimately your decision criteria on how you hire. Having that documented, and the reason I call this out early on, as you enter into a POV world and start to deliver POVs and POCs, oftentimes your question around the people you hire, the skill sets you hire, or you may even need to change your skill set as you start to do more hands-on or more keyboard experience to prospects. You want to have all that documented. So if you do need to change something, or you do need to go back and look at the personas that you're hiring, you have it clearly documented and defined. And then if you do have to make tweaks in the types of skills you're hiring, like it's real easy to call out and understand the how and the why of what that looks like. Once you've built that team, then I think the second piece to this is the retention process, right? How do you keep those SEs that you want to keep on board if they are the right skill set? So what does your SE hierarchy look like? How do you build out paths and plans to promotion? You want to make sure you retain and keep those good people on staff. And then also you need to have an internal stack ranking system so that you and any other managers understand where your SEs fit in the hierarchy of the organization, so that you can promote people into those higher ranking positions, and also develop future leaders or people to help you lead down that path of delivering effective POVs out to prospects and customers. So moving on, now that we have the base foundation built with our SEs and we've got a hiring plan in place, I think the next most important thing for me, and one that I've bumped into often in my career, is around mapping the organization for efficiency. And that really comes down to matching up to what your leadership team is looking at and your sales operations team is looking at from a standpoint of how you're going to cover territories. Now, every organization does this different. I've seen it done from physical geography to industry segments to pooled resources. There's a lot of different ways to map out your SE resources to align with the account executives and the sales team that's out there proactively selling product. The important thing here is that you map to the strategy that the org has, and then you build for efficiency. I've done all, I think, of all the different ways I've outlined here. I've done them all. I can say that there's probably no right or wrong way to do this. Some organizations deliver services really well through physical geography. Other ones do it better through segment or a pooled method. A lot of it depends on, again, your go-to-market strategy from the org's perspective, and then also probably relates back to how your SE organization is laid out. Are they physically dispersed across the geography, or are they all in one location? What does your sales cycle look like? Is it a fast sales cycle? Is it a slow sales cycle? Do your prospects expect people to be on site or to visit with them, or do they expect it all to be delivered, over online calls and over remote capabilities? So a lot of it's really going to be determined by the product and what your leadership has in place. But again, if I go back to the building the foundation for a strong POV, POC process, it's really, really important that you have alignment from the top down. And then once you have that alignment, you document sort of the rules of engagement of how your organization will work to support the sales team from the method you choose that's going to be most effective. So let's move on to the next slide. Utilizing tools to optimize your team. This point, I really think it's important to take advantage of any existing tools that may exist internally. And I look again at this as building that foundation for how do you make your team most effective in selling and supporting the sales organization, whatever that delivery model is that's best for you, whether it's, back to the geography-based, a pooled approach, a segment approach. Once that's established, you have to have really good tools internally for your team to find common issues, find common knowledge, share information across the team, build ways for them to collaborate, be it through wikis, team sites, knowledge bases, utilizing tools like Slack and chat mechanisms. You want to leverage any tools that may already exist inside your organization to get your team as efficient as possible. The last thing you want to do is enter into, a POV/POC strategy plan for your sales organization and not have a really good foundation for how the team can find and share knowledge across themselves. Because as you enter into POVs and POCs, things are going to get more complex, and the team is going to be constantly looking for answers to solutions and answers to things they run into as they're delivering, a next level of information and feedback to prospects. One thing I suggest is you utilize Salesforce. If you're a Salesforce house or you have a similar system in place, take advantage of it. Meet with your leaders that are driving, that standard for all of sales. Understand what they're doing with it, and then leverage it to the extent that you can. Salesforce doesn't deliver everything that a sales engineering organization often needs, but it's a good tool to give you a baseline and to get started. Plus, it's the tool that drives all of the sales organization. So you definitely want to be closely aligned and tied to it. I'll talk a little bit about, the next bullet here, using specialized SE tools, but I think it's always important to align with the primary tool that the sales organization is going to lead with. Specialized SE tools, this is where I think it's important that you start to differentiate as you build out a sales engineering organization and you start to go down the path of delivering value through a proof of concept or a proof of value. You're going to find that most of the tools that exist don't deliver things that are required for the SE organization. So a couple schools of thought on that, and I'll expand on that in the next slide around heading down the path of specialized tools for SEs. So moving on, specialized tools for the team. There's two schools of thought here. I've been fortunate enough, I guess, over my career to do both methods here. One method is to build your own, and the other method is to leverage, SE specific tools that are on the market. In the build your own realm, I've gone down the path of everything starting with Salesforce, building out with, extensive tools like Power BI, using Excel, other homegrown or custom internal apps that we created. And the idea here was to fill voids that we couldn't solve from a existing tool set standpoint. And we were looking for metrics or things that were specific to the SE org. One that I'll throw out there as an example is resource utilization. How busy are my SEs? Where are they spending their time? What things are they doing that are effective use of time? What things are they doing that are an ineffective use of time? It's really hard to pull some of that data out of the existing tools. So oftentimes you can build your own, but eventually you get to the point of where it gets too hard to manage, or the amount of data or the amount of things you're trying to track just aren't easily put into those tools. And you spend a lot of time managing the tool more so than pulling the data out of it. Personally, for me, I've always had better luck going down the path of leveraging a SE specific tool. Currently, we're leveraging Home Run pre-sales tool here at ReliaQuest to help manage and maintain our SE organization. But I've done both. I think in all my cases of leading sales engineering organizations, we started with the basics of build your own, and usually it was as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, and then grew pretty complex into more custom things like Power BI, and then eventually we just outgrew it, or we got to the point of where we were changing things so fast that the teams that were left here to support those build your own type models, they simply couldn't keep up with the pace of innovation that we were doing in our selling process or selling cycle from an engineering standpoint. So every time we need to make a change, or every time we want to add more features or functions, we'd have to go back through another handful of internal resources to help us build our own tool to get what we wanted. And that took us a lot of time. We weren't as agile to be able to take an off-the-shelf package that was really built or optimized for an SE organization and then leverage the features and functions within it. So again, I'm not saying one's better than the other here. I've done them both. Personally, now I find much more value in utilizing a SaaS tool that's already pre-built. But your mileage is going to vary here based on the size and complexity of your organization, and ultimately what are you trying to deliver or build out. So moving on to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about, we've discussed building your own or using an internal tool. What are we driving for here, or why do we need this? And for us here at ReliQuest, and for myself at other organizations, one of the questions that I always wanted to know is, where do my SEs spend their time? Are they spending their time in meetings? Are they spending their time doing marketing events, travel, dealing with RFPs, doing discovery for customers, doing demos, right? If you don't have the visibility into this, and you enter into a world where you're going to now start to deliver POVs, you're setting yourself up for some very large challenges, because if you don't know where you spend your time today as an SE organization, you don't necessarily know if you have enough time or enough resources to go deliver effective POVs. And the worst thing you can do is launch a POV or POC program and not have either enough SE resources, or your SEs are hung up in spending too much time supporting marketing or supporting RFPs or supporting an area that's critical to the sales cycle of the overall org's business, but maybe not the number one priority for an SE organization. So for us here at ReliQuest, one of the things that we often asked ourselves, like, again, where do we spend the time from an SE perspective? I always called it, and I like to refer to it as the SE black hole. Prior to having tools, be it custom built in-house tools or off-the-shelf SaaS tools, it was the SE black hole. We knew SEs did a bunch of work. We knew SEs were critical in closing business, but we didn't know what they were doing, right? We would assign them to an account or an opportunity. They would go do their work, spend a lot of time on a resource. Some of them seemed like they spent more time. Some of them, it seemed like they spent less time. We didn't really know. So it's kind of the black hole. The SE would go in, they do their magic, they do all the things that good SEs do. And then out the other side, we get a tech win, and the business would close and move forward. But we had no clear definition to understand where we were spending our time and utilization across our team. Currently, again, we're leveraging HomeRun. It's nice to have an off-the-shelf SaaS application that does this, so we don't have to build our own, and it does a good job of tracking it for us. And it gave us clear visibility before we went into the POV process here that I'll discuss here in a little bit. It gave us a really good understanding to know, where are we spending our time? Are we spending our time in the right places? And do we have the right matrix of SE to AE coverage? And also, do we have enough free time in our schedules to launch another service that's probably going to consume a lot of resources in delivering out POVs and POCs? All right. Moving on to the next slide. Give me just a second here. Here we go. So, building upon that same theme, again, once we understood where we were spending our time, then we started to ask the deeper questions. Are we spending all our time in meetings or demos or RFPs? Once we got a clear line on that, then we started to look at our coverage, right? Are our ratios correct? Are we running a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 4-to-1? Are we running that, if we're in that pooled model, like, are we getting enough AEs coverage from the SEs in the pool? So once we had a good understanding of time spent, then it was really, digging into that time aspect a little more, and then understanding, do the ratios look right? Can we afford to deliver a POV? Because we certainly couldn't deliver POV, POCs and impact our current level of performance and standards that we had set for our internal teams and then ultimately out to our prospects. So we didn't want to lower our bar of what we were delivering. We have to deliver the same capability, but we got to get better, right? So understanding that SE time, now that we've got it broken down into the individual hours that they're spending in different areas, now we're looking at it at a larger scale from the ratio to coverage perspective, the geographic coverage. An example I'll give there, if you do require to go on site for your POVs and POCs, if you have everybody in one geography and they're spending all their time on a plane to fly to get to customers, it's going to impact that ultimate result. So being able to see that in a very clear and easy fashion in the screenshot that I'm showing here, we have a really easy way to look across our team and understand who's overutilized, underutilized, and are our ratios correct, and are we spending the appropriate time supporting our sales partners from a ratio perspective. So that's, for me, that's the foundation of building out a good sales engineering organization. That's the fundamentals. And a lot of you on the session today, you may understand that, you may already be somewhere in that process. What I say before you move to the next process, if you're not delivering POVs or POCs, or you're trying to optimize your POVs or POCs, get a really good understanding of that foundation, build that foundation strong, because then as you move into the more complex things in your sales cycle, it just helps when you have that strong foundation to go back to look at, and then you can ultimately make tweaks to it. You can change your persona of the people you hire, you can change your ratios, you can change your coverage metrics, you can understand where you're spending time. All that will help you ultimately deliver much stronger value to your prospects when you have a clear understanding at the foundation level. So here at ReliQuest, once we had a strong foundation, we moved into the new process of proving value through POVs and POCs. And I'm going to call it out, and I'll spend a little time here discussing like the differences between a POV and a POC. For me, it's very important to define the differences. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of sales engineering organizations that use the terms interchangeably. We here, in my current role, we made a clear, conscious effort to separate POV versus POV. And the reason we've done that is when we looked at our sales motion and what sales engineers do, we broke our sales engineering process down into different stages. So as a sales engineer, much like sales organizations do for salespeople, we have sales engineering stages. So we go through discoveries and demos and hands-on and all the different things that sales engineers do. We broke into a staging process. And one of the things that we determined is we get to a certain point in that stage process where we're delivering value. So we're delivering proof of value. And the way that we deliver proof of value is through a whole bunch of different things. It's through discovery, demonstrations, workshops, hands-on, full deployments. All those things are different ways to deliver value. And what I've built here is sort of this value slide, this value pyramid of proving value. At the top end of the funnel is discovery and demonstrations. Those are the things that are relatively easy to do. They're sort of table stakes for my team. They're very fast, and there's not a lot of complexity in them. As we move down that proving value funnel, and we get to customers that want to do hands-on, they want to do a full-blown proof of concept. And we define proof of concept as hands-on keyboards, delivering our product to a prospect so that they can actually touch it, feel it, see it, utilize it. When we start to move from just proving value and go deeper into providing actual, hands-on keyboard experience, the complexity goes up, and then also the time of our sales cycle goes up, right? Anytime you have to deploy something, not only do you have to deal with your internal processes of deploying things, but you also have to deal with prospects' timing, right? How quick can they do change management or change control? How quick can they agree to legal paperwork or legal documents to actually, sign on to a system and utilize the system? So you add complexity anytime you go deeper in our POV funnel. And it's clearly the reason why we defined a proof of value, where we're proving value through multiple different avenues and tools. versus a proof of concept where we're thinking in our terms, proof of concept is more hands-on and full deployments, where that complexity comes into place. Ultimately, for us as an organization, if I can prove value early in the cycle and I can not have to go deeper into that funnel, it makes our sales cycle run faster. But there's a lot of prospects where we simply can't do it. They may have a internal requirement where they actually need to touch product or see product or put product into semi-production environments. And we have that capability built into that overall proving value funnel for us. Again, the thing to watch as you enter this is anytime you start to do that, you add time and you add complexity to your sales cycle. So moving on, for us, once we define that, and now we understand that we prove value in multiple different at multiple different levels with multiple different tools, and we also have the ability to do that proof of concept capability that's more of the hands-on keyboard and delivering product real time. We needed to now start to look back at, okay, we're delivering this. Where are we spending our time? Are we spending our time at the top of the funnel, right, with the items that are faster in the delivery cycle of sales? Or are we moving deeper into the funnel and spending more of our time hands-on? And there's a really easy trap to fall into here from a sales organization, especially when you get outside the engineering organization. I think all engineers like to do hands-on. When the sales team latches on and sees some early wins with hands-on, they ultimately want to default every deal to doing hands-on. My guidance to my team, when I look at providing value, our goal is not to provide hands-on to every customer or every prospect. It's really to deliver it to those that need it. Oftentimes you don't need it, right? There's a very strong success track record here. We've got lots of mechanisms where we can attach customers together, where they can talk and share. We can do those discoveries. We can do light touches of hands-on that's not as deep. So for us, it's finding that sweet spot, right? Where is the right mix of enough value added to the sales cycle without delivering too much time and complexity? So finding that balance. And this will tie back into the conversation I had around building that foundation, where building that foundation was really important because we can always go back and look at our process procedures, our documentation, and make sure that we've got things documented and tuned optimally. And if we need to tweak something, some of the things we uncover in here will help us point back to that foundation and make sure we're defining and driving the right behaviors and practices within the foundation of the SE org. So one of the questions here was that was thrown out is, what was the size and complexity of our team when we moved to Home Run? So prior to moving to Home Run, our organization, it's a global organization. We were running, I think at the time, roughly around 35 SEs and a handful of frontline managers scattered throughout North America and different segments and globally. Since Home Run, we've added a few more. We've gotten a little more complex and we continue to grow. So we're probably approaching 50 total heads now, with a mix of managers and individual contributors spread across the organization inside Home Run. And feel free to add more questions to the chat. Happy to break out of my slides here and kind of answer any questions that come along. So back on track with the slides. So now that we understand, the time and the sweet spot, we've defined we built our foundation, we've built our POV, POC processes, we've got them clearly defined. Now we're looking at where are we spending time in that process? Are we hitting the sweet spot? It's really optimization for us next. How do we continue to drive best practices and spend the time where it's appropriate to get the wins that are critical to our business? Again, I always go back to that example of, and this has happened multiple times in my career, every time we introduced a hands-on POV, the sales organization wants to rotate right away to every deal, every opportunity, everybody going through that process. And what they don't realize is it may not be the best place. You have to have a good understanding of what an optimal sales cycle looks like, track that optimal sales cycle, and then deliver that knowledge back to the sales organization so they can act appropriately and drive the right behaviors to ultimately get you more wins in the win column. So built the foundation, we've got everything in place. We built the POV and POC process. We've got that in place. Now we come back to how do we track all this, right? And again, finding that time in the sweet spot. It's much as the same as it was for building out the SE org and understanding their time there. You've got two avenues to take here: build your own, or you can buy a dedicated product. And I'll say probably everywhere, this is probably the first place where I've had a tool at the start of delivering a POV POC process. I'll say in all my other experiences in the last, multiple decades, anytime we started a POV POC process, it was pretty manual tracking, and most of it was done via spreadsheets. We would maybe flag something in Salesforce or in a sales tracking tool that we were going to do a POV. And then we would typically, as an engineering org, default back to spreadsheets. And those spreadsheets were everything from, customer contact information, milestones, metrics that we were going to track, mutual success plan, success criteria. So a lot of different cells and a lot of different tracking that was done manually. It worked at small scale. Once you started to get over a handful of POV, POCs in flight, it got pretty complex. Been down the path of building more complex things like using Power BI and trying to get creative and creating better user interfaces for the SEs. But ultimately, in my experience, it always led to the same conclusion. Like eventually we were going to outgrow it and need to build or to buy some kind of dedicated product. Fortunately for us this time around, and for me this time around, it's been home run here. So we've had good success in leveraging that product. The nice thing that it worked out here for us is just the timing, in that we deployed Home Run first to get a good understanding of our SE and SE organization. At the same time, we were starting to build out our new POV POC process kind of in parallel to that. So once that became a valid option for us to deliver out the prospects, we already had the SaaS tool in place and we're able to take advantage of it when we launched our new POV POC process. So what's happened now that we have tools in place for POVs, POCs? It's a pretty cool tool for us in that we can now really determine where are we spending time, and it is in the right spot. And I mentioned earlier, we do two things with how we utilize Home Run. We track stages. So for an SE organization, we have our own stages that are independent of the sales team. One of those stages is proof of value. So we can determine, are we stuck in proof of value, or are we spending, what is the right time, and are we spending too much time or too little time in proving value? So we have that as a stage. And then we also have the granular capability within that stage to look at, what are we doing? Are we doing demos? Are we doing discoveries? Are we doing meetings? Are we doing hands-on keyboard? Are we doing full-blown deployments? So within that stage, we have that granular capability to look, okay, we got to POV. We're doing a really good job of getting our prospects to POV, but what the heck are we doing once we're in that POV? And are we truly proving value? And what's winning for us, right? Is it that we have to do more hands-on, or is it that through good demos, better demos, through light touches, giving some minor access to our product, does that hit the sweet spot? So we now have the capability since launching to get really granular, really understanding how do we spend our time, what is most impactful, and then ultimately it leads us to be able to go tweak it. So going into our process, again, for me, it was pretty exciting this time around. First time that I ever went into a new POV POC process and had a tool in place that day one was starting to track our data and then give us ultimately real-time feedback of what was working and what was not. For us, we saw, I'll say within the first month, we saw immediate return on the investment of getting an understanding of where are we at, what are we doing, are we overutilized, are we underutilized, do we have the right head count, and are we in the sweet spot? Now, we built our foundation, we built our POV POC process. We're tracking our foundation, we're tracking our POV POC. the next extension for us was, how do we deliver more value to the customer? What can we do to make that experience with us as we're selling value better? And there's a bunch of ways we did this. The first is we're fortunate here that we have principal SEs. So they're sort of our lead SEs that help us with a lot of internal things. Our principal SEs helped us build consistent templated plans for anything that's POV. So whether you're doing a demo, a hands-on keyboard, or doing a full-blown deployment, we have very standard templates that the team can pull from so that we deliver consistency, so that it doesn't matter which SE on my team is delivering a hands-on experience, I know they're going to follow the same steps. So makes it really easy for us to scale, makes it really easy for us when we hire new employees to train them so that they're all delivering a POV process that's similar and consistent. And then it also gives us the ability to go back if product changes or we add new features or we're missing the mark on something, we can tweak those templates and then build that consistency across the team. Once we had templated processes, then the next thing we started to look at is how do we share this out and prove that value to the customer so that not only are we delivering a consistent process and experience, but what can we share with them and make it easier? Past experiences here throughout my career, that's done everywhere from, I'll say face-to-face meetings to verbal calls to Word documents, Excel, email. Like there's been a lot of ways over the years that I've shared and our teams have shared success plans out with prospects. This time around, we're using a portal. The portal gives us a lot of benefits that we haven't had in the past. It's real-time access for both us and a customer. So as we change something in the mutual success plan and check something off that's complete, or they can check something off that's complete, it's real time. So there's no questions or gray area. Did we check the box? Did we meet the criteria that we both set forth and agreed upon? And it's real easy for customers to have bidirectional communications to us through that portal. So if they need to share things, tech documents, login information, we can do it in a secured fashion. No longer goes through email. It's kind of a one-stop shop for prospects to gain value in insight to what's happening in that proving value process and be able to communicate with us securely if they need to. Some side benefits to this, it creates a really organized approach for us. In the past, I think without this kind of tool, what we had seen, every SE had done things a little different. Even though we had templates and we used Excel or we used Word, everybody would do things slightly different. One person would prefer the Excel template, one person would prefer Word, or somebody would do it in email. So this gave us a much better approach where we got that consistent, organized method that everybody delivers it the same way. And then lastly, it ties back into our time management. Again, because we're tracking, are we spending time in meetings? Are we spending time doing internal admin work? We can understand with these templates, like, are we more efficient? Is it helping us get better? Is it helping our prospects? Like, are we delivering better value to our prospects because we're utilizing, a consistent templated tool that we can see and they can see? So great side benefit to this is we have that ability to look deeper and track this and understand truly the value it's delivering back to not only us internally, but out to the prospects as well. So what's it look like from a customer standpoint? They get access to a portal. The portal gives them some really easy things to see, overall progress, what's happening. One of the neat things I think that we do in here, depending on your environment and what your how you deliver your product, in our case, it's SaaS, but in order to deliver a SaaS like hands-on experience, we have to spin up internal resources. It's in our portal. So in that template that we deliver to a customer, they actually see there's a line item in there. It says request for SaaS tenant to be created. Next line item, SaaS tenant created. Next line item, customer emailed access credentials for tenant. Next line item, customer successfully logged into tenant. So it gives us that ability to track at a level that before we didn't. Again, we were trying to do it the manual way. It wasn't always efficient. And there was a lot of back and forth. Here it's in this easy to see portal. It's very effective and efficient for customers to go in there if they're curious about the process. especially when you have multiple teams involved with the prospect that you're talking to. The management team may just want to go in and see the progress, and they can come in here and see a really easy overall status bar of where we are in improving value, what boxes have been checked, any that have been flagged as issues or need follow-up, and then again, sharing or communicating back and forth any kind of secure information that typically would have to flow back and forth. And I always think of secrets and API keys and login information and the kind of things that you don't want to put in email that you do want to have encrypted. We've got a nice, easy portal now built into the platform that we can take advantage of to make that customer end experience even better. So ultimately, in sort of the talk of today, why is the CEO excited? Why was our management team so excited about this? It drove value back into our overall sales organization. Well, first and foremost, more value to the customer, right? We've got a very organized process that's repeatable. It's consistent across every SE here, whether that's a mid-enterprise SE, an enterprise SE, and whether that SE's in the UK or Eastern US or here in Texas where I live. It doesn't matter. The process is the same. It's organized, and we can see the value we're delivering. On top of that, we have the ability to track resources. And this is a big one. I think most SE organizations struggle with this. I've always struggled with this in my career. What's the right ratio of SEs to AEs? A lot of times we just take a stab at it in the dark. Is it 2-to-1? Is it 3-to-1? Is it 5-to-1? And we kind of throw it out there and we run with it. At times we know we're either overutilized or underutilized, but we never had a easy mechanism to track it and prove it. In here with very simple reporting, I can look across my team and I can tell you if I'm running hot in certain areas, if I'm, over provisioned or under provisioned just from an overall team perspective. Did we plan right or we not plan right? So when I need to go back and ask for heads, or if our executive team is looking like, did we hire the right amount of people? Are we spending the right cost of sale for every opportunity based on our head count? Like, are we in the sweet spot? Are we doing it right? It's real easy to look in here and see. From executive standpoint, we're gaining a lot of insight into where we win and where we lose and why. I think one of the best things that happened since we created tracking tools and then built a POV process is with the ability to track those two things, we now have a very critical seat at the table when it comes to understanding wins and losses and forecasting accuracy. In the past, and I think I always like to say this as a sales engineering leader, I think we're the true serum to sales, right? Our SEs tend to give very honest and open feedback into what we actually see within a sales opportunity. Unfortunately, that information is often lost in typical sales organizations. One, there's not a mechanism to report it. A lot of times it's subjective, right? You're just giving your opinion on something and it's not documented. Utilizing a tool like Home Run has given us the ability to now impact forecasting through proven metrics. Like the data doesn't lie. And the data for us has gotten so good that we're actually looking at how do we take that data that we're tracking that's given us this additional sense of forecasting accuracy, win rates, and loss rates, close rates, all that. How can we feed that data that we're gaining within our tool set back into Salesforce, back into tools like Clari to help the overall organization get even more accurate on understanding pipeline, close rates, and forecast information. So huge value add to the executive level here and down. Once we built that foundation, started tracking it, expanded into proving value method of sales, and then being able to capture all the metrics around it and then have some predictive analytics coming out of it as to what's going on. The last one here that I'll call out that's been very valuable for us is I'll call it near real-time updates on technical processes and status within any account. In the past, and I think everybody that's ever managed a sales engineering team or been around sales engineering teams, we've all gotten that call on a Friday afternoon, like, hey, Scott, what's going on with this account? I need to know now. I'm reporting to the board, or I'm talking to, some of the other leaders, and I need to understand what's going on in this account. And it was always a mad scramble to, if you weren't close enough to the account at the end of the week, you're calling your SE that's working on it. You hope that person's still around. You hope they have some good notes to give you or some updates to give you, so you can go back to your executive staff and tell them, hey, this is what's going on in the account, good or bad, right? With us leveraging a tool like Home Run, it's real time now. My team no longer spends time in Salesforce. They spend all their time inside Home Run. They put notes in there. They track all their meeting interactions. They track customer interactions. They have personal notes. I have a SE leadership notes section where leaders can put notes in there. So literally, if somebody calls me right now and says, what's the status on this deal, I can give them, and I say near real time because my team updates pretty much on a daily basis at a minimum. A lot of them update at real time. So almost with real time accuracy, I can give any details around an opportunity that's sitting in front of anyone on my team, understanding, what's working, what's not working. Are we in the sweet spot? Are we delivering value? Are we stuck in a stage that's specific to the SE organization, independent of what's happening outside the sales cycle and the sales organization? I think overall for us, if I look at having done this multiple times in my career, this is probably the nicest rollout I've ever done, from delivering POV, POCs out to customers, building out a very extensive plan for that. And I think for us, it was just a lot of good timing on one, having done this quite a few times in my career, understanding what needed to be done, then coming into ReliaQuest at the right time, where there were some good fundamentals and foundations, well built, well defined, and in place. So a lot of the early things I talked about of, building your hiring plans, understanding how to hire, retain, build talent, grow talent, develop your internal tools for knowledge and all that. A lot of that was very well underway and established here, which is great. So we had a strong foundation to build upon. And then timing brought in a tool for us at the right time, because we were struggling with building internal tools. And we brought the tool in at the right time for us to, again, understand what was happening with that foundation as we were in parallel prepping to revamp our overall POV process. So the stars kind of aligned. It worked out really well for us, and we were able to deliver, I think a truly world-class capabilities within our POV, POC process by having all those things align at the right time. So summary for us, again, it goes back to build that strong foundation. Without it, you're going to struggle. If I won't say that you can't do it without having a strong foundation, because I've been down that path. I've done it myself without having a strong foundation. Every time that I've gone that route where the foundation wasn't quite in place and we were, racing to deliver POVs, POCs, because either the market, competition, or executive staff thought that was the right track to go. It caused a lot of challenges internally when we couldn't, and I'll use the term defend how we built the organization, having the right head count, hiring the right people, understanding where we're spending time, having tools in place to track things. Anytime that some or part of those were missing, it became really difficult for the SE org to scale as fast as we wanted to, because I think, I'll use the term again, we spent a lot of time defending what we had built without it, a clear way to prove it. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to build that foundation and make sure you get it right. And then you're never going to have it perfect, but build it as good as you can, define it, and then have the ability to look at it, understand it, and track it, and then go back to the resources and tweak and modify it as you grow and improve as an organization. Once you have that, then it's really around clearly defining that POV, POC complexity. You make sure you do that, because again, I think a lot of organizations get tripped up on, they treat them the same. There's clearly not, they're clearly not the same. Again, when you're proving value, there's different ways to do it. Some is hands-on keyboards and access to product, some is not. And you need to understand the complexity and speed to both. So define it, Make sure you understand the timing and how it impacts your sales cycle. Once you get that done, make sure you have mechanisms in place to track and record it, because if you don't, again, it's going to go into that black hole where the SEs are going to come in, they're going to do some kind of POV, POC process, and not the other side's going to come, either tech win or tech loss. If you don't understand what's happening in the middle, it's really, really hard to get better, because you don't know, are we spending our time on the good things, or are we just getting stuck in the minutia of customer deployment challenges? So you really need to have a clear understanding there. And then ultimately feed that data back into existing tools. The more you can share that data coming out, right, the more successful your sales organization is going to get. They're going to like the information they're seeing. It's going to help with their forecasting accuracy and predictions. And then lastly, share these learnings across the team. I think one thing that's been very valuable for us too, a lot of what we're doing and a lot of the data that we're capturing and things that we're tracking, it has impacts beyond just the sales organization. It impacts our product team. We're sharing, things that we find during the process that lead to feature requests and changes in the product. It goes back to our delivery team and our post-sales teams. How can we help them by the information we're gathering, tracking, and understanding? Good example I can always give: if we spend a lot of time in the trenches technically on an account, odds are the delivery team's probably going to spend a lot of time in the trenches with the technical team post-sales, right? So understanding where we spend time has value and benefits to more than just a sales organization. All right, and that is my last slide. A couple questions here. So I will I'll jump back through these here and see if we can answer some of the questions. So let's see. So I'll just start at the top, jump back to slide 3. So let me go ahead and jump over to slide 3 so I can just pull that back up. And while I do that, I'll go ahead and jump over and answer some more questions here. So slide 3 is posted up. So Matthew, you were asking for that. So that's in front of you now. And let's see. Question: how have we structured your pre-sales pipeline stages? For us, so good question, a good comment here. I found that less is more for busy SEs. Casey posted that question out there. Casey, it's a great point. For us, we have 5 stages, and the stages are very simple. It's discovery, it's demo, it's POV. We have one called Parked, and Parked is an interesting one for us. That means that the SE doesn't want to kill it in Salesforce. They think it's still alive, and the SEs are saying, this deal's dead. So they can park it in there and just leave it in their pipeline so it doesn't go away, but it's not an active deal. And then we have the closed one stage. So for us, it's 5 stages, very simple. We didn't want to make it complex. We basically we studied it for probably a month period and looked at what do our SEs do. And we started out very complex. We had, ideas of 20 different stages, and then we just kept narrowing it down. And our goal was to get it as simple and as clean as possible. If an SE has to look at a deal and try to think of what stage it's in, we over-engineered it. And in most sales engineering organizations, that's something that's always easy to do. So we spent a lot of time and said, look, I want any SE on my team to be able to look at a deal and say, like, right away, I know it's in a demo stage, or it's in a scoping stage, or a discovery stage, or a POV stage. Very easy for them to tell what stage it's in without a lot of complexity. All right. So Jethro mentioned here some markets are very protective on personal data, sharing calendars internally in Home Run and other tools. So yeah, we've dealt with this. We certainly have people that are outside the U.S. For us, none of it's required. It's all optional. So everybody's got the opt-in ability to, and we don't track. Like, what we don't do here at Home Run and other places where I've used this, like, I always tell my SEs, I don't care how many hours in a week you work. That's not what I'm tracking. What I'm tracking is how much time did you spend in this deal to close it? Did it take you a 1-hour demo, or did it take you a 4-hour demo? And that's not to track the SE. It's more to track, like, are our demos effective? So we're not really tracking on the personal level per se. We're tracking it at the deal level to try to understand the impact that it has to deals and process and pipeline. I don't look at the end of the week to see how many hours SEs have at the end of the month or anything like that. It's not how we're tracking. Good question now. And I think that's it in all the questions. If there's any more, feel free to post them up. Everybody in this presentation, you can find me out on LinkedIn. You can always reach out to me there. You can always send me email to directly at sreader@reliquest.com. Always happy to chat about SE organizations, what works, what doesn't work, and always happy to chat, share what we do, and learn from others.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for that awesome presentation. I was looking through the comments. Jethro, you asked a ton of questions, so thank you. You were allowed more than that, but thanks for asking those too. So thank you again. Just a couple of things to close out here. We're excited to be bringing DemoFest on the road again as DemoFest X. We had a great time in San Francisco in February, and we can't wait for the event to be in London and New York again later this year. You can register to join us at either of these events at demofest.com or at the link in the Docs tab at the right of your screen. We also encourage you to stop by our expo hall to visit our premier partners at DemoFest. Remember, there's no transfer of money involved in this event, so all of our partners here have gone above and beyond to contribute to making this event a success for all of you. And thank you again for joining this session. There's actually a survey. If you go to the survey tab at the right, you can you can answer the questions there. And thank you again to Scott for that valuable insight and knowledge. Up on the screen are the upcoming sessions. You'll be automatically pushed to the next session in your track, and you can switch tracks or sessions by toggling to the agenda tab at the left of your screen. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Wayne.